This is the SEC. And here, we just...
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Ed Benkin. We are an hour away from the start of 9 NFL games on week 8 of the season. Among the early games today will be an AFC East battle between the Patriots and Dolphins in Miami. Jalen Ramsey is active, and the defensive back will play his first game for the Dolphins this season as he returns from a knee injury. Running back Raheem Mostert is also active for Miami. The game can be heard on select ESPN radio outlets. Another running back is active in Indianapolis. Zach Moss will play today against the Saints, despite dealing with injuries to his heel and elbow. For the Saints, receiver Michael Thomas will play. He's been dealing with an illness. As has tight end Jimmy Graham, he is out. Commanders wideout Curtis Samuel is active. He's been dealing with a foot injury, but he will play against the Eagles. Cowboys offensive tackle Tyron Smith will not play today against the Rams. He is inactive with a neck injury. The top two picks go head-to-head in Carolina when the Panthers host the Texans. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky says the C.J. Stroud-Bryce Young matchup will be intriguing.
I'm excited to see number 1 versus number 2 pick go head-to-head. And as great as C.J. Stroud has played, reminder, the Carolina Panthers passed on him to go with Bryce Young at that number 1 pick, and they're happy about that.
In one of the later games, the Broncos host the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has been added to the injury list with an illness, but he is expected to play this afternoon. Also, Brock Purdy will start for San Francisco against Cincinnati after clearing concussion protocol. The World Series is all even at a game apiece after Arizona's 9-1 win in Game 2. The series now shifts to Arizona for the next 3 games. Game 3 is set for Monday night. All World Series games can be heard here on ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman, and coming up Monday, we'll get you ready for Lions and Raiders. Plus, the great Joe Buck joins us at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Welcome to the Bama Recap Show, presented by Freedom Marine Center. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Drew DeArmond and Steve Moulton.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Snap it with 2 seconds on the play clock. Give it to Dejon. He's got clear sailing on the right side. He's going to get to the corner. Touchdown, Dejon Edwards, as he glides inside the pylon on this right side of the goal line. 2 receivers to the right of Beck, 1 to the left. Edwards in the backfield. Snap it back to Carson in the shotgun. Play fake, goes for the back left corner. Caught by Bell. Touchdown, reaching up high as he crosses the goal line.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ball to right hash at the 6. Watkins goes in motion, now turns and comes back to the near side. Dart wants to throw in the end zone. He's got his man wide open. Back right corner, hauled in by Dayton Wade. Touchdown for Dayton, his 3rd of the year. And the Rebels extend the lead to 26-0.
3 seconds separating Kansas from a moment of historical significance. 3-step drop. Gabriel steps up, lobs to the end zone. It's tipped in the air and knocked away. KU's gonna win it. KU's gonna win. Oklahoma goes down, and for the first time in nearly 30 years, Kansas with a regular season top 10 victory, and they beat the Sooners 38-33. You can rock. Chalk it up, the Jayhawks win.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
2nd down and 3. Handoff, tailback, finding some running room, making a cut, getting to the 40, getting to the 30. It's a foot race to the 20, to the 10, to the 5, all the way for a Tennessee touchdown. Jalen Wright, 52 yards.
The Auburn Tigers.
From the 45, play action. Thorne up the seam, wide open, touchdown Auburn, touchdown Javarius Johnson. Double wide receivers right and left. Cobb flanks Thorne. 2nd and 1 from the state 7-yard line. Thorne drops, looks, floats it. Cobb has it. Touchdown! Jeremiah Cobb, a 7-yard strike from Thorne, who threw it perfectly. Touchdown, Auburn!
How about them Auburn Tigers? A good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into the Bama Recap Show, and you may be looking at the radio going, wait a second, Bama didn't play yesterday. That is true. That is accurate. But we not only review a little bit, but we're going to preview a big week on the capstone as College Game Day did announce that they are heading to T-Town. Good morning, Drudy Arman. How are you?
Good, Steve. How are you? And it was an interesting slate yesterday, and I know you had a lot of angst going into the game. And after the first drive, you probably had some wild turkey. But after that, it was a complete and utter shellacking as the Gators. I know they scored 20 points, but I mean let's put it this way: I turned the channel in the third quarter, lost interest.
Yeah, it was done.
I mean, it was a beat down. So Billy still doesn't have a good enough roster. There's some play calling issues. I think, on this level, now Billy's always called the plays, I think, since he's been at Louisiana.
Yeah.
I think he needs to bring in somebody to be the play caller and just be kind of a CEO and
How
continue
did
to
they beat
recruit.
Tennessee?
Well, they just jumped on them.
Yeah.
They jumped on them quick, and they were able to run the ball and stop the run. Tennessee's a good football team. Are they a great football team? No, they're not. They don't have a lot of explosive ability. Dylan Sampson really impressed me yesterday. He kind of took the game over in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
When it looked like Kentucky had a chance to maybe steal the game. Instead, they burrowed. And when the catch on words there, that's a new Drew-and-Airy term now. They burrowed. Didn't get the dub. But, I mean, I just felt like overall Tennessee is who they are. I think they're a 9-win team. It's going to be a dangerous game for Georgia, but the main thing the Dogs are going to have to do, and it's what Alabama did, going back and checking the statistics, and it's why, to me, no offense, Ole Miss fans, why the Dogs are going to, drop an anvil on your head when you go to Athens in a couple weeks. The reason I say that is
that's a prolific offense.
It is, but it's like I was on WWL yesterday with Mike Detillier and Bobby Hebert. And that's what we were talking about. They were talking about Ole Miss and how they scored on LSU. But I said, guys, the key to the drill against Ole Miss, they go, how did Alabama, hold them to 10 points?
Yeah.
I said 56 yards rushing. I said, everybody talks about Lane Kiffin being so explosive and some offensive wizard.
Yeah.
Everything is based off the running game with Ole Miss.
It is.
You have to stop the run. Alabama stopped the run. They held them to 10. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, Kentucky's pretty good defensively up front, I think. They got some NFL guys in their front seven, and yet Tennessee ran for 253 yards. Alabama held the Vols to 133, and a lot of that was late with Joe Milton running.
It was.
They shut the run down. You have to shut the run down against both Tennessee and Ole Miss, and so that's why I think that again, I know the Dogs have to play both of them in the future.
That's right.
But the whole key to the drill is going to be stopping the run, because neither one of them are prolific passing teams. If the Dogs stop the run, which they did against Florida after that first drive, I know the Gators threw it around some too.
They did.
But if you stop the run and make them one-dimensional, Joe Milton ain't good enough to beat you, and neither is Jackson Dart. And so that's why I think – and I know one of the games is on the road. In Tennessee, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Heupel has not lost a home game yet in his career.
That's right.
So that's the one thing everybody, including Clay Travis, the propagandist, is holding the carrot above everybody. They're not going to lose.
Well, if he's already declaring victory, then
it's over. You got to feel good.
I feel really good.
Yeah, put the champagne on ice and pop it in the middle of the second quarter.
He's been declaring Bama dead for over a decade.
Yeah, well, I could say something else, but I'd probably get in trouble with the FCC. But again, but I could say this though. I think, I think basically that I do think that they'll get tested by Tennessee. Georgia will probably for a half.
Yeah.
But I just don't see. Just like they were for about a quarter yesterday, I just don't see the Vols having enough firepower, especially in the vertical passing game, to ultimately beat Georgia. And so I think that'll come later. I think when Georgia gets to the SEC championship game, if you get into the playoffs, that's where Georgia's ultimately going to have the biggest stress test, is against teams of that nature. Even though I will say this, I'm not going to disrespect Missouri, because Missouri's probably got the best passing game left they've got to face. But that game will be in Athens too. It won't be in Como. So we'll see. And to be honest with you, Missouri might be the toughest matchup because they nearly beat the Dogs last year.
They did.
That was their biggest regular season test, and this Mizzou team is a lot better than that one was. And then I think they'll have some insight, due to Lovett being at Georgia. So they'll, and I'm not saying Lovett's going to be sharing information with his old teammates, but they're really studying it and everything like that. They're really studying the Dogs, and it'll be. And I do remember, when Kirby was there, I think Missouri did beat Georgia, in Athens one time early in his career.
Very, yes.
Yeah, but I still see though that Missouri's probably going to be the biggest test for Georgia. I just don't see Tennessee and Ole Miss as good matchups because I'll just say this. Kirby is from the Saban tree, and the thing, first and foremost, you ain't doing is you're not going to run the football for 200 yards on Georgia. They're going to try. They're going to take that away. We've seen how Coach Saban's lost games in the last decade. Same way with Kirby. You've got to be able to throw the football and make explosive plays. I think Missouri is more apt to do that with Luther Burden and Theo Wees and those receivers. They've got a bigger opportunity to do that. I just don't see Tennessee having a chance to do it. I may be wrong, and Joe Milton looked pretty good last night. And actually, he looked pretty good against Alabama.
He did.
It's just that Tennessee couldn't run the football. And if Tennessee can't run the football against Georgia, then they're not going to win, even in Knoxville. But it is going to be interesting. I do think that down the stretch, Georgia's going to be tested. For at least for a half by Tennessee, and then potentially for 4 quarters by Mizzou, even though it's in Athens because of Missouri's balance. Because Missouri's running game's underrated. But again, it's going to be very, very interesting. And then, like I said, we got a lot to talk about with Alabama and LSU because to me, right now, I don't care what anybody says. The front runner for the Heisman should be Jaden Daniels. I don't care if they've lost 2 games. I mean, we were having this discussion on WWL, and they think that Daniels is not getting enough respect nationally. Maybe they're right, but I still say if I told them, even if they lose to Alabama and he plays well, I think he should go to New York City. But if he plays well and they win,
RG3. I mean,
yeah, that's what I brought up, the RG3 comparison. And then if they get to Atlanta and win it, then he should win the Heisman
Heisman. That's a
Trophy.
no-brainer. Yeah.
I mean, and then they both admitted, well, if he was at Alabama, and this was not a shot at Alabama, they were just saying how good Alabama's supporting defense is and their kicking game. He's like, it would be a runaway train because they would be about to win the national championship. So and then I did tell them, I said, I'm sorry, guys, if you put Milroe on LSU and Jaden Daniels on Alabama, this fixing to be a beatdown in Tuscaloosa. So, I mean, it's not even going to be a close game. So, but again, the whole key is going to be Milroe, how well he plays, how they build on what they did in the second half against Tennessee, where they were basically almost flawless. And if they can be balanced like that, and if they can throw the football explosively against LSU, which is possible because I know LSU's improved defensively, but they're still not great. I mean, come on. I mean, that's what I was telling, Bobby and Mike Detillier. The reason they lost to Ole Miss, they couldn't stop the run, and then they gave up explosive passing plays. We don't even know who's going to start at corner for LSU at this point.
No,
I mean,
no.
It's just kind of a mixed bag. Their back end is really weak, and their front 7 hasn't been as good either. And the one thing Alabama's got to do is they've got to find Harold Perkins, and they've got to keep him off the quarterback. And they're going to have to get – and then Jalen Milroe, I hope a light went on in his head after this second half against Tennessee. Run the ball, son.
You would think.
You've got to run it.
But what does he want to be?
Yeah, I know. I told him, I said he wants to be a pocket quarterback, and then Mike just started laughing, and I said, you got to take off.
Just embrace who you are.
You got to
just embrace who you are. You have elite legs.
Yeah.
Use them.
Well, and I'll just say this too. Oklahoma is who I thought they were. I didn't think they were a front runner for the national championship. I know they beat Texas, but Dylan Gabriel's a good player, but he's not elite. His performance yesterday was, so-so against the Jayhawks.
Yeah.
But I'll give Lance Leipold credit. He's definitely a riser in the profession with what he's done. I mean, this is a basketball school he's at, but I don't think they were giving away tickets yesterday.
Took over an impossible situation after what happened there with Les.
Yeah, the hat. And so it's remarkable what he's done. They showed a lot of resiliency because they were up 14-0, then they were down 21-14, then it turned into a dogfight, and they made a lot of plays. And so you got to give Kansas a lot of credit. A lot of people said that was a trap game for OU, and it certainly was. And so they didn't escape this time like they did against UCF. And I think they put together their best 4 quarters against Texas, but the key to the drill is being consistent every week. And Texas has had that issue as well. They have not looked great. They looked pretty good yesterday with Malik Murphy behind center, but they're still going to need Ewers back. I still say
they looked better than I thought they were going to look yesterday.
They have a good shot of making the playoff because I think they can beat Oklahoma in a rematch. But again, you don't have a margin for error though. You can't trip up at all. I don't think a 2-loss team will make it. And as I've said on the show, I think the Pac-12 is starting to cannibalize each other.
Yes.
They're starting to knock each other off. And I'm going to say it again. Oregon is the best team.
Yes.
What they did yesterday, I thought was the biggest statement game in the country. Going to Utah and not just beating them, but beating the ever-loving snot out of them like they did, 35-6, when most of the game day crew, including Pat, McAfee, we're picking Utah. Steve Smith's tearing his shirt off, doing whatever the hell he's doing. And
Was he? I didn't watch it.
Well, I mean, I just happened to see that part of it. I mean, he didn't rip his shirt. I'm just saying he's yelling and screaming and, wearing the Utah colors back in his stomping grounds, and Utah gets smoked. And then he says that, that NC State has no shot against Clemson because, they're a basketball school.
Oh, really?
And then I love what Dave Doran did. He went up to the ESPN cameras after the game. He said, well, guess what? We're not a basketball school. You can tell Steve Smith to kiss my ass. And then he walked off. So, and look, everybody knows Steve Smith's got a big mouth. I mean, he had a big mouth his entire career. He was a really good player. But I think the reason he had a chip on his shoulder his whole career is because he was told he wasn't good enough. He was 5'10", he was small, but he's a great player. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of like what I see out of Jermaine Burton. Even though Burton was a 5-star, he was supposed to be a stud, but Burton, to get himself going, almost has to play the disrespect card and just always be so emotional. Some guys have to do that to crank their tractor. Now, you get tired of seeing it, and sometimes it can hurt your team, and it hurt Steve Smith at times in his career, and it hurt him in the prognostication business yesterday.
Well, on the subject of prognostication, I couldn't have been more wrong going back to Nashville about South Carolina. I mean,
just not very
wow,
good.
Are they just bad?
And see, that's what that's why I had Georgia covering. Because think about it. The Gators had to come back from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter to win at South Carolina.
Yeah.
South Carolina is not very good, okay? And in the second half of the schedule, the Gators' defense has been kind of falling off the table. They were really good the first half of the season, but they've not been great. And I just felt like, even though Graham Mertz, to his credit, has been much better than people thought he would be, I just felt like Florida's not going to have enough weapons to beat this Georgia team. Georgia's going to take the run away from them, and they are predicated on play action and being able to run the football. And I just felt like South Carolina. Now, if South Carolina were an 8-4 team, it'd be different. But I don't think Beamer's
209 total yards of offense.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think Beamer's team is even going to make a bowl game. He's made a bowl game. He's snuck into a bowl game his first 2 years. I'm looking at our Full Moon Barbecue schedule, by the way, great sponsor for us. But you're looking at Kakalaki's schedule, and they just got smoked, by yesterday by Texas A&M.
Yep.
And I would have picked A&M to cover in that game, especially at home. A&M smokes them. They're coming off the loss to Mizzou. They got Jacksonville State, which you better watch out and not be flat.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
I was there was a reason I wanted to talk
hey,
South
Ole Miss,
Carolina.
ask Houston Nutt about that. You need to have Houston Nutt on the show this week. He probably won't want to talk about it. But, I mean, I'm just saying that I think that was the Jevin Sneed Ole Miss. The late Jevin Sneed, God bless his soul, but I believe they got upset, and that was
Rich Rod going into an SEC house. I mean,
they should win that game, but I'm just telling you, it's not a lock.
That's not a lock at all.
I
think Jacksonville State's 7-2 on the year.
Yes, they are, and And so this could be their de facto bowl game. If they're not, since it
this
doesn't
is
look like
their
they're gonna be
first
eligible.
non-weekday game, I think, in over a month.
Yeah, they've been Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays and everything.
Yeah.
It's like when Terry Bowden was at UNA. I went to a few of those games.
Yeah.
But
I think their only loss in that stretch is Liberty at home. But
yeah, and the Liberty's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so, but again, after that, they have 2 winnable games in a row against Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt at home. And then they finished their last 2 games at home, and this will decide if they're a bowl team or not. They got to beat Kentucky, and we don't know what kind of shape Kentucky's going to be in by then.
We don't know what about the last team, what kind of shape they're going to be in.
Oh, we know what kind of shape they're in right now. I mean, it's brutality. I mean, if you haven't figured out, Dabo, yet that you got to get in the transfer portal and you got to change your recruiting policies about taking visits and stuff, and up your NIL game a little bit more, you better do it in a hurry, son.
Welcome to 2023.
I mean, and I don't agree with this at all, but I was getting messages yesterday. This shows you how the climate's changed and what have you done for me lately. I'm getting messages, are they going to fire him? And I'm like,
excuse me?
Fire him? He's got so much equity. He won 2 national championships.
You're not going to fire him.
I mean, they just ended a streak yesterday with this loss. They will not win 10 games for the first time in 12 years. Wow. So you're telling me you're going to fire him because he's not going to win 10 games? That's not how you run programs, man.
No,
you don't. This is not a video game. You don't just
No.
fire the guy because all of a sudden they're bad.
He's still an elite coach.
Yeah, I mean, hey, all I heard was Garrett Riley was going to get him back to the playoff, and obviously that hasn't worked.
I would love to know those same jokers. Would you rather have Dave Doran running your program or Dabo Sweeney?
Or do you want Tommy Bowden back?
I'm just...
I mean, come on.
Is it really that hard of a question?
No.
It is not to me. Coaches have some learning to do on the job, and clearly Dabo is in that process right now. Although if you really look at Clemson, I didn't see a lot of that game yesterday, but in the previous losses, turnovers, and penalties have just been gigantic for this Clemson team this year.
And I will say this, if Shane Beamer, and who I think a lot of, by the way, I know people have been saying he's whining and stuff, but I think he's just passionate. If he can turn this around and get to 6-6 and get to a 3rd straight bowl game, look,
that's
man,
huge.
you have to understand where he's at. They don't have as many good players as everybody else, and their depth has been decimated. They've just been injuries have just decimated their team.
They went through the spring with two
running backs.
2 scholarship running backs.
And the third one was a guy that was a quarterback receiver, DeCarrion Joyner, who got moved to running back. So they just really haven't had the guys. And then they've had Juice Wells got hurt. They've had all kind of guys get hurt and be injured. And then their offensive line has just been horrendous. Injuries, youth. It's just been tough.
On the other side of that coin, kudos to Jimbo for getting what I think was a very important win.
Oh, they'd have fired him. They might have fired him in the parking lot.
I'm just saying.
When
it was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter, you could feel the uneasiness. You could feel it coming through.
I'm going to tell you all the true story because I always tell the truth on this show.
Tell the Truth Sunday.
Yeah, there it is. On Saturday nights, I watch a lot of press conferences. I'm just trying to see reactions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to Dabo, and it was a 15-minute, which is kind of long for like a post-game press conference. And I'm listening to him talk and talk about what's happened in the tough season and everything. And he's taking it. I mean, these guys are hammering at him. And then I kind of dozed off when it was nearing toward the end. And when I woke up, Dirt Neck was talking. So it had gone right to Dirt Neck. We felt pretty good. We played pretty good. We ran the ball pretty good. Too. I did a good job. And brought to you by Acme Lie Detector. And I'm sitting there and just looking at him. He looked relieved, like, thank the Lord we got to win.
2 penalties, by the way, for A&M yesterday, 8 for South Carolina. But, I mean, that second quarter really saved their bacon. 21 points in the second quarter for the Aggies as they go on for the 30-17 victory. How about them Auburn Tigers? Passing offense, 230 yards. How about rushing offense, 186 yards, a total of 416 total yards of offense against Cowbell.
Yeah, and my last comment on Tennessee, though, 9 penalties for 70 yards. Was it the ref's fault? But, I mean, it is what it is, even though that they won this
So you
one.
want to go there again for the second week in a row?
Yeah, as they get getting called for penalties, I was like, so is this, is this a conspiracy?
I was really hoping you were on Friday morning to talk to Tone, but we had him on, but you were.
I should have texted y'all and said, ask him if he sent off for the Xanax, but I'll just say this. But Auburn, I mean. The key to the drill was Peyton Thorne starting off so fast. I think he was 9 of his first 10.
20 of 26 overall.
And they had some balance. And, Hunter had his best game. He went up for close to 150.
144.
And they made some explosive plays in the passing game, which Javarius Johnson got loose for about a 45-yarder. They haven't really done that all year. Now, the second half wasn't very good, though. Brian Matthews, who I really respect because he tells the truth, he's like, Auburn – at one point only had 67 yards of offense in the second half.
Ooh.
And they were starting to struggle after having over 300 at halftime. And the game got close. I mean, I'll just say this, and don't forget he's a Vandy transfer. If Mike Wright could have hit the broadside of a barn, he made a few good throws, but he was very erratic. There was plays to be made there. For Mississippi State, they put some pressure on Auburn in the fourth quarter where they could have cut it to one score, which would have made Hugh very uncomfortable.
115 yards of total offense in the second half for the Auburn Tigers compared to 301 in the first half.
Exactly. They didn't look nearly as good in the second half. And about half of that, Steve, was a 49-yard run from Jarquez Hunter.
When the game, I don't want to say it wasn't. It was. You could almost stick a fork in it.
It was basically it iced the game.
Yeah.
But half their total yards came on one play. So Mississippi State kind of clamped them in the second half, and that's why it didn't become a blowout. And now Auburn has 2 straight road games. They go to Nashville, which should be a win for Auburn.
Should be.
I mean,
but then the Hogs.
Yeah, and then you don't know about the Hogs.
There's. Especially with a change at the offensive coordinator position, I don't know what to think of
think
Arkansas.
About what Cadillac did as head coach with Auburn. They were horrendous, and he took over and they beat Dirtneck. Okay,
sure
they just went to running the football, they scored. They stayed in the game with Alabama. They came out and ran the ball. They played hard, and remember they also came back and beat Mississippi State. Or, almost came back and beat Mississippi State.
In overtime.
Yeah.
Overtime.
They
lost
39-33. And they were down, 3 scores.
Yeah.
So forgive me for that. But Auburn nearly came back and won that game when you would have thought no chance. And they absolutely fought and scrapped and nearly found a way to do it. So they've got they've got their schedule when you look at it right here, and I'm looking at it courtesy of Full Moon. They have got a chance here. They got Vanderbilt at Arkansas and then New Mexico State. They could be 7-4 going into the Iron Bowl on a 4-game winning streak. But I will say the most dangerous game is at Arkansas.
It is.
Because you don't know what kind of Arkansas team you're going to get. And this Auburn team, Hugh admitted it yesterday, he really praised Ron Roberts and the defense, but he said, we are not very deep. And he goes, and so we have to continue to battle.
Your winless teams in conference play, Vanderbilt and Arkansas, both at 0-5. Your undefeated teams in conference play, that'd be Alabama and Georgia at 5-0. Your one-loss conference teams are Ole Miss, LSU, and Missouri. 2-loss teams, this is when it starts to get thick a little bit, Florida, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. Then your only team at 2-3 is Kentucky. They are the only 2-3 squad. 1-4 is Auburn, Mississippi State. South Carolina's 1-5. So that's how things stack up, at least on the conference side of things. I had an opportunity to talk to the LSU head coach, and I talked to Brian Kelly in particular about this matchup coming up this Saturday. And he dove in pretty deep. You'll hear from Brian Kelly on the other side of our first time out. It's the Bama Recap Show presented by Freedom Marine Center.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com.
There's nothing like the freedom you feel when you're on the water in your own boat from Freedom Marine in Guntersville. And when it's time to get your boat ready for cold weather, Freedom Marine is your best choice to winterize your boat so it's ready to go next spring. If you've been thinking about a new boat, Freedom Marine has a great selection on sale now with some of the biggest discounts they've had in a decade. For new and used boats, outboard sales, financing, service and parts, it's Freedom Marine. Highway 431 in Guntersville and online at freedommarincenter.com.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
Hi, my name is Dan Aldridge. I'm here to let you know about the Aldridge Law Firm and the soon-to-be-announced Legal Town Center. I've been practicing law in Alabama since 1984, and I also practice in Tennessee. And I'm from North Alabama, and I'm here to represent you and take care of your legal needs. For many of us, hiring an attorney is not high on the priority list, and maybe a little scary. But it's something that we all need at some point. So by all means, do your homework. And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188. And you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
The kitchen is the heart of any home. It's where the family gathers. It's where kids discover old recipes and make them their own. Just starting out or just now getting started on the dream kitchen you've always wanted?
I'm Chris Haygood, and from all of us here at Bob Wallace Appliance to the home builders and the homeowners of the Huntsville area, a heartfelt thank you for buying local. We're in Huntsville, Florence, and Coleman, and online at bobwallaceappliance.com.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Work injuries happen in Alabama all the time, whether it's an accident at work, getting injured, lifting heavy objects, hurting your hands on a machine, or just performing the same movement over and over until your body breaks down. But when it happens, there's only one law firm to call in Alabama. That's Pond, Lehocky, Giordano. For personalized legal support, reach out to Pond Lehocky at 855-774-3838 or pondlehocky.com.
The representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
There's nothing like the freedom you feel when you're on the water in your own boat from Freedom Marine in Guntersville. And when it's time to get your boat ready for cold weather, Freedom Marine is your best choice to winterize your boat so it's ready to go next spring. If you've been thinking about a new boat, Freedom Marine has a great selection on sale now with some of the biggest discounts they've had in a decade. For new and used boats, outboard sales, financing, service and parts, it's Freedom Marine. Highway 431 in Guntersville and online at freedommarincenter.com.
It's the Bama Recap Show presented by Freedom Marine Center. Had a chance to talk to LSU head coach Brian Kelly and the SEC teleconference. Wanted to ask about Alabama, maybe an early thought of what you see out of the Crimson Tide, Coach.
Well, you know, look, very well coached. I mean, that's obvious. Talented defensively. I think they've recruited very well defensively. Length at the outside linebacker position, big and physical inside. Really like McKistry, the corner. The safeties are athletic, can cover man-to-man. Really love the personnel on defense. Offensively, big offensive linemen. the skill positions are underrated. I think they're all guys that can make big plays. And the quarterback has developed over the past 4 weeks to be a dual threat quarterback that can run it and is very underrated in terms of what he's been able to do the last few weeks in terms of throwing the football. He's made big plays. So an emerging offense, one that has skilled players on the perimeter, and then I think a really athletic defense. That structure is very sound.
How big was that win last year for your program, year one, that overtime victory over Bama, you think, Coach?
Seems like an ancient memory. I mean, it's what you've done lately. I mean, it helps build your recruiting. It helps build the momentum in your program. We've got some work to do, clearly still in recruiting, but it helped in the recruiting process. But those are definitely steps in the right direction. But as I said, for us to get into the ranks of Georgia and Alabama, you got to be able to do this thing consistently. So for us, it's about consistent performance, and we haven't been as consistent yet. That's what we'll be looking to model after the Georgias and the Alabamas is consistency in performance.
That is my conversation with Brian Kelly about this weekend's matchup down in T-Town, one that will be featured on College Game Day this weekend, and also yet another CBS night kickoff. Enjoy it because this is the last one.
And it would be apropos to be the Alabama-LSU game, which has defined the conference since 2007, because even in Saban's first year, a 7-6 year, they had LSU on the ropes, an LSU team that won the national championship. And these games have all been epic, a lot of them very, very close. I think this one will be close as well. I do think Alabama has more than a puncher's chance in the game, but they're still going to have to put together their best 4 quarters. They're going to have to make this LSU defense pay for not being very good, and they're going to have to control the clock and play keep away from Jaden Daniels. They're going to have to, do what the Priceville Bulldogs tried to do to the Randolph Raiders, which is shrink the game and control it, but Randolph made just enough explosive plays to win the football game. That's what Alabama's going to have to take that approach, except they got to score. I think the game for Alabama to win, it has to be in the high 20s to low 30s to mid 30s. High 20s to mid 30s kind of game. It's got to be anywhere from 28 to 35. Really more I would lean toward the 35 men for Alabama, because I have a ton of respect for LSU's offense. It'd have to be – Alabama's going to have to win like a 35-31, 35-28 type game. And they're going to have to win the plus-minus. They didn't win it against Tennessee. They lost 2-1. They've got to find a way to steal possessions against LSU and be able to turn the Bayou Bengals over. Because if they don't – like that was another key to beating Ole Miss was making Jackson Dart feel them and basically hitting him, sacking him, multiple times. They've got to – I know – and Jaden Daniels is an even better athlete than Dart, but you have got, when you have a chance, to get Jaden Daniels on the ground, and you have to a key to the drill, we talked about this after the Texas game, Steve. Texas fumbled the football 3 times. Yeah. Alabama didn't recover any of them. If LSU lays the ball on the ground, or if Jaden Daniels, and he hasn't done it very often, if he puts the ball in peril where you have a chance to pick it off, have got to do that, because they are so good offensively. You can even get them off schedule. Yeah. And I'm talking about 2nd and 15, 3rd and 18, and you still have to be worried, because he can take off running and he can throw the football vertically down the field to a great group of receivers.
It's the Bama Recap Show presented by Freedom Marine Center. Feel free to call in here this Sunday morning at 256-576-4977. Let's flip the coin and go to the other quarterback. Listen, roller coasters are great. I love roller coasters. Roller coasters are fun, but I don't know if Nick Saban likes this roller coaster ride, meaning it feels like he's getting more dependable, but those oh-no throws, I still feel like there's a time when you tense up a little bit where he's not feeling the pocket as much as you'd like him to. And I know it's unfair to compare him to the likes of Tua and Mac and Jalen and Bryce. I get that. I understand that, and people need to fully understand that. But I did ask Sean Salisbury earlier in the week, what do you think of Jalen Milroe?
I know his dad. I had dinner with his dad about a year and a half ago. Me and a buddy of mine whose son I trained as well here in Katy, Texas, and he didn't go to Katy High. He went to another high school in Texas, and we sat down and just talked football and life and everything for 3 hours, and it was awesome. I've never met him. We talked a lot about his son, and I'd seen him on tape, and I knew when he was getting recruited by Alabama, and Bryce was there, and so he was a backup. And in stints, you saw him. I think he is a phenomenal. Now, when you say this, people automatically think, well, he's not a great quarterback. And a lot of times it flips. I've talked to guys throughout my career in the NFL, players that played the position that came in as great athletes, and they hate hearing that. I understand that. And then we'd say, great athlete, man, and he's becoming a better quarterback. They all want to know, when you're growing up, you want everybody to tell you you're a great athlete. When you get to the NFL, what happens is, or when you're become a great quarterback, then we call you a great quarterback first who happens to be a great athlete, right? And that's what you want to hear. You want quarterback first, great thrower and accurate, not a strong arm's fine and dandy, but if you can throw it through a car wash without getting it wet but can't hit the car wash, you're not doing me any good. Same thing here. So I think guys want to hear great quarterback for Milroe, who I think is a phenomenal, a specimen, big. I think he's improved as a passer. I personally don't think right now, and you guys, I've been on with you for a couple of years talking, football and play, and I'm always brutally honest. I love the kid and I love his dad. I don't think you can drop back 40 times in a game and win games against good teams consistently. Now, you don't have to when you're at Alabama. I don't think he's at the stage yet where we call him a great quarterback and passer. I think we're at the stage where we call him great feet, great runner, improving as a passer. For me, I would want to make him beat you from the pocket if I'm playing in a big game and see if he can do it. And he may be able to because he's a smart kid and a really good player and watched a lot of football before he got his chance. So, but improving, yes. But I think that if you force him, I was having a conversation with an LSU guy the other day when they play. I said, if you force him and you're got a lead, you're up 17, and it comes down to where they can't, instill and put their will on you and their physicality that they do at Alabama, this isn't going to be the same as it's been where you got the ball in Bryce's hand and he can throw you, or Mac Jones's hand, and they're going to complete 30 or 34. Now, I know he's capable of it, but I mean consistently. So I think right now he needs to be in position to win where the threat of run and pass are still there. I really like his improvement, and he's made some throws, and he's got a strong arm, powerful arm. But there still needs to be improvement there because I don't think that if they had to rely on the pass regularly to beat you, a good team that is a national title type team, I don't think that he's at that point yet.
That is Sean Salisbury.
With that, 100%. It kind of equates to 2016 down the stretch with Jalen Hurts because they hit a wall, because he got to the point where he couldn't throw the football well enough to beat some of these teams down. Now, they won every game until they got to the national championship game. And I know people still say, but he ran the ball into the end zone and they were up with, a minute and a half to go. Yeah, but see, you can't erase the 7 straight 3-and-outs before it where the defense gave him the game on a silver platter and he couldn't close the drill until then. And by then the defense was give out and they could not stop Clemson at the very end of the game. The game should have been put away before he ever ran to the end zone. Clemson should have never got the lead, okay? Bottom line, bluntly. Was it all Jalen's fault? Absolutely not, because guess what? Damon Harris got hurt. Bo Scarborough got hurt. Josh Jacobs wasn't 100%. A lot of his supporting cast wasn't, healthy. Yeah. And so, but Jalen was also still developing and learning and getting better, just like Milroe. And so the key to the drill is Alabama's got to keep their people healthy, and for the most part they have. But I'll also say this: Jaden Daniels, it's a similar quarterback to Deshaun Watson, but LSU doesn't have near the defense that Clemson did either. And so that's where Alabama's got to make hay. Again, they've got to be balanced. We got to continue to see what Tommy Rees did for the final 3 quarters against Tennessee. The Debo package with Kendrick Law. You've got to vary up the running game. You've got to go outside the tackles. You've got to have Milroe be a willing runner, both improvisationally if the opportunity presents itself, or he did run the zone read more effectively against Tennessee. And Tennessee's got a pretty good defense, by the way. They are pretty good.
Yeah.
And so, and then you have to, 2 or 3 times he's going to have to make big plays throwing the football, which he's done for most of the season. And I think you can against LSU's secondary. You've got to be able to get behind them. Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond. You've got to be able to make some big plays. And maybe Ja'Cory Brooks finally shows back up. We haven't seen much out of him. Or if it's a Kendrick Law, just someone has to step up, Amari Nyblack, and make some big plays.
Let's go ahead and take our final timeout. We'll briefly hit the very first college football playoff rankings coming out on Tuesday. I am to the point now where these first you know what? I'm going to save it and let you know exactly how I feel about these wonderful rankings coming out on Halloween.
There's nothing like the freedom you feel when you're on the water in your own boat from Freedom Marine in Guntersville. And when it's time to get your boat ready for cold weather, Freedom Marine is your best choice to winterize your boat so it's ready to go next spring. If you've been thinking about a new boat, Freedom Marine has a great selection on sale now with some of the biggest discounts they've had in a decade. For new and used boats, outboard, sales, financing, service, and parts, it's Freedom Marine. Highway 431 in Guntersville and online at freedommarincenter.com.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner at University Kia, proudly saying Roll Tide and War Eagle. Stop into University Kia today and shop one of the area's largest selection of new Kias, including Fortes, Seltos, Telluride, and Popular Carnival, and fully electric EV6. View all the great specials at universitykia.com and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia you really want, because we want to see you in a University Kia.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family-owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
Injuries at work happen all the time in Alabama. So do motor vehicle and slip and fall accidents. If you're hurt at work or injured in an accident, I want you to call my good friends at Pond Lehocky Giordano. That's Pond Lehocky, Alabama's injury law firm. They got your back just like they've got mine. For personalized legal support, reach out to Pond Lehocky at 855-774-3838 or pondlehocky.com.
The representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
There's nothing like the freedom you feel when you're on the water in your own boat from Freedom Marine in Guntersville. And when it's time to get your boat ready for cold weather, Freedom Marine is your best choice to winterize your boat so it's ready to go next spring. If you've been thinking about a new boat, Freedom Marine has a great selection on sale now with some of the biggest discounts they've had in a decade. For new and used boats, outboard, sales, financing, service, and parts, it's Freedom Marine. Highway 431 in Guntersville and online at freedommarincenter.com.
The best in local sports talk from the 256. We are local.
When you're number one, you don't have to worry.
We are award-winning. Thank you for listening. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You'll be set for life.
It's the Bama Recap Show presented by Freedom Marine Center. Along with Jordy Armand, Steve Moulton here with you. Getting you ready for Alabama LSU. 3:30, by the way, pregame. 3:30 pregame. In fact, we're going to have a full day of football for you here this Saturday. It's going to start with Kansas State at Texas. That pregame starts at 10:30. And that'll walk us up to Bama LSU. And on the network, I'll be on the call for the Huntsville Havoc taking on the Birmingham Bulls over on Zone 5 on Saturday night. So a lot to sift through. Listen, these rankings are important, the college football rankings coming out, but I mean, I think I'm more curious as to where they're going to put Alabama and the roadmap to get to the Final Four. And there's no doubt that we all know what has to happen. Bama's going to have to win out, including the SEC championship game, to get that coveted ticket. I don't think there's any secret, but I say that to say if they're 9, 10, I don't see them below 8 myself, Drew.
No, if you had to ask me what we think we're going to see on Tuesday, I think it's going to be number 1, Georgia, 2-time defending champ.
I'm thinking Ohio State, but I mean,
I got Michigan 2, and then Ohio State 3. I think they're going to be back to back, and then here's where it's going to get interesting. I think Washington will be 4, and I think Florida State will be 5, and then I would say, to me, I think Oregon should be 6. I think Oregon's been very, very impressive, no doubt about it. Then Texas 7. I would say Alabama coming in at 8, and because I don't think Alabama should be ahead of Texas. Texas beat them head to head, but you just mentioned something. That game with Kansas State for Texas is very dangerous.
It is,
because you don't have your starting quarterback. They almost lost to Houston, and Kansas State laid waste to the Houston Cougars yesterday, 41-0. One thing I've seen about Chris Kleinman's teams at K-State is they get better. And they're very, very physical. It's a tough matchup, so that's going to be an interesting one. But I would have Alabama coming in at 8th in my poll after the Texas Longhorns. I just think that's going to be the case. And Washington's undefeated, so you got to have them in the top 5. I just think that they'll because of their win over Oregon, I think that's why that they'll be ahead of Florida State, even though Florida State beat a really good LSU team and but I will just say for FSU, that the shine of beating Duke is off because Duke got shellacked 23-0 at Louisville yesterday. It's time for hoop season to start. So
today,
I mean, Duke is a solid football program under Mike Elko, but they're not a championship level program. I think we understand that. And speaking of hoops, the Crimson Tide going to take the court in Winston-Salem in just a few minutes. Now, not going to be on our network. You can listen to the Wake Forest stream of that. Their radio network's going to have the game. Got a chance to see Alabama practice on Friday. They impressed me. I think they're going to have a good basketball team again. I think they've got some really nice pieces. Sam Walters is absolutely the real deal. He can flat shoot the basketball. He's going to really help this year, and I don't know if he'll start right away, but he's going to be in. He's going to get minutes, and he's going to be able to give you offense with his face-up game.
And you see Grant Nelson.
Grant Nelson, absolutely. He reminds me a lot physically of Greg Stolt, who played at Grissom and then Florida. He shoots it well from the perimeter, but he's really crafty offensively, Steve. He does a lot of things with his in-between game and his post game, head fakes, using both hands. He's very, very skilled is the best way to put it for me. And then Aaron Estrada absolutely can fill it up and is another really crafty guard. Now, Mark Sears did not practice. He just did some ball handling drills and a few shooting drills, stationary, shot the ball well. Not sure he's going to play today either. They'll probably hold him out again. But I just thought overall Nick Pringle, really, really springy. And then a guy that I really liked, he's just been practicing for a week, is Mohamed Wagay from West Virginia. He's not got a ton of offensive skill, but he's one of these guys, he talks all the time defensively. And what I mean is making sure everybody's in the right place.
Yeah, that's how I took it, yeah.
The right things. He's going to really help them be connected defensively and can give them minutes. So they've got 3 guys because Nelson can play the 5 as well. So I think their center spot is going to be okay even without Charles Bediako. I was impressed. And then I like Latrell Wrightsell. I think he's a tough, gritty guard who can shoot it as well. I actually thought just from watching them, and then Davin Cosby's been hurt, but watching him shoot it, I think Alabama's deeper from the standpoint of shot making ability. Now, are they and Jaron Stevenson? He shoots it better from the perimeter than Noah Clowney, but can he defend like Noah Clowney? Can he play with the toughness that Clowney did right away? I think this team has a lot of potential. They're going to have to come together, but I think they have the pieces to be good. Now, they're going to play a brutal schedule, especially in December, where they're going to have to, keep their confidence. But again, if they can be injury-free and have guys develop in their roles because of Sam Walters and Stevenson being better, I thought it might take them a little longer. I think they both have the ability to help right away, which is going to be huge for Alabama because of the shoes you're filling when you lose Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney.
Yeah.
But these guys are good players. You've got a Grant Nelson who has an all-SEC level type game. Aaron Estrada, him with Steers. I think both of those are crafty guards. And Estrada has a little more size than Sears, so I think that should help the Crimson Tide. And I just think overall, I looked at it, I definitely think they can at least play 9 guys when everything it comes together.
I did want to circle back with other rankings. The Sarragan rankings love Alabama. They've loved Alabama from the very beginning. Right now, Jeff has his rankings as Michigan 1, Ohio State 2, Alabama 3, Georgia 4, Texas 5. The Collie Matrix. You ready for this?
Air Force is number 1, aren't they?
Florida State. I'll get to an obscure name here momentarily. Florida State is your number 1 college football team in America. We love our man, Professor Wes Collie over at the UAH Center. Here it is: Michigan 2, Oklahoma 3. I said Oklahoma 3. And yes, he does.
Is Kansas 4?
4 is Ohio State. 5 is Texas. James Madison checks in at number 6.
Where's Liberty?
Liberty's 11. Following James Madison is Washington at 7. Then Alabama checks in at number 8. I have yet to say Georgia. Georgia's 13 in the Collie Matrix. So the 13th best team in America is the Georgia Bulldogs.
Without Brock Bowers.
Yeah, of course. I'm surprised they're not 19th. Anyway, we'll have plenty to preview this week. I did not mention LSU. Where is LSU? LSU's 24. So according to the Collie Matrix, this is number 24 at number 8 this weekend. So there you go. According to Jeff's rankings, he has LSU number 11, and this would be an 11-3 matchup. And there's some answer, I think, in between those two, and we'll find out coming up Tuesday night. We'll carry the rankings live for you during the drive when we're live over at the Furniture Factory Bar and Grill. I have yet to see a line. I'm going to say Bama minus 6.5. Does that sound fair?
I would have gone lower than that.
Would you?
Somebody asked me the other day, like, okay, what do you think the line's going to be? And they always give you 3 for being at home.
Yeah.
I said 4.5, 4.5. I thought would be Alabama and what they'd be favored by. And like you said, Steve, the lines have not come out yet.
No, I looked.
Yeah, they're not out. But I would say Alabama by 4.5. It would be my guess.
You're going to be covering the game for us this weekend.
Yeah, looking forward to being back in Tuscaloosa, and it was great to be at practice the other day. And Darion Reed delayed his announcement. So in basketball, he's a top 10 player in the country. and I think that's a good sign for Alabama. He would be their second big-time addition to the recruiting class. Because remember, it's just November the 8th is the early signing period coming up. So it'll be next week, the day after the Huntsville Crimson Panthers take the court against the Lee Generals, and the great John Taft, his jersey will be added to the rafters and retired, number 22.
Week 10, we mentioned it a little bit. Jack State is at South Carolina. UConn is at Tennessee. Arkansas at Florida. Texas A&M at Ole Miss. Then Missouri at Georgia. Auburn at Vandy. Kentucky at Mississippi State. And LSU at Alabama. That is your Week 10 slate as everybody gets back in line, as they should, to get ready for this stretch run of the regular season. Well, as you hear, Falcon football about to take over. Appreciate Freedom Marine Center being our presenting sponsor, as they have all season long. Roll Tide, everybody.
Two and 1 against Atlanta in Nashville. This is the fourth time they played. Last time, 8 years ago, almost on this very date, by the way, October 25th, 2015.